School safety continues to be a very important topic for our podcast. Thanks for joining us today on the SAFESECURE 360 podcast, or Safety in Numbers. School lockdowns in Houston, Texas, where we're from, continue to happen more and more and more. I see them on the news, or someone calls me and says, hey, we had to lock down today. What is a lockdown? How does that work? Who can initiate one? Who can release it? And what do the students expect? And what does law enforcement expect if they're responding to this? That's what we're going to talk about today. Thank you for joining us.
Lieutenant Robert Henry is an honorably retired law enforcement commander from Houston with over 35 years of public service experience. I'm Daniel Ziegler. I've been asking questions all my life, and on this show, I do my best to ask the questions that the public would like to know the answer to. The SAFESECURE 360 podcast is intended to provide you, the listener, with information about current events and ongoing societal challenges to help make your life safer. Thank you for listening. This is the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. There is safety in numbers. Well, Robert, thanks for sitting down with us. When we work in schools, we talk about crisis response guides and emergency management drilling and things like this. Lockdown is a pretty high up on the list of severe things that a school can do. What is a lockdown? What does that mean? And why would, I guess it's two questions, but why would a school call that?
It's real fundamentally important to realize that schools should already be in a lockdown from external visitors and external people just wandering onto the campus. We have gates, we have locks, we have parking areas, we have security, we have double doors, we have fob accesses, we have visitor credentialing processes. We have all these things to heighten the ability for the school inside of itself to become a sacred area that only teachers, staff, parents, contractors that we allow in come in. So let's say that the lockdown procedure is a very important one of many strategies that take place in a crisis event. Lockdown is a very complex one because it requires a lot of things to happen simultaneously. And what causes a lockdown is typically an external threat to the school. But it could also be an internal threat that is developed or poses itself that causes us to have a response based in policy that we flip the switch on and we say lockdown. Lockdown means the cessation of transiting to and from the campus. Lockdown means to, if you know the term run, hide, fight, this is that. You are going to run to get away from some event that's occurring. And the second part is, the hide part is really associated with lockdown. You're going to leave the playground, you're going to leave the cafeteria, you're going to leave the library, leave the chapel, leave the place where you are in general, and go to a predetermined area, whether it's a classroom or wherever you've been instructed to go to lock down. You're going to enter that area, you're going to close the door, you're going to drop down the shades, the lockdown shades. You're going to get away from the door and remain quiet, cell phones off, lights off, and you're going to await further instructions. That is an actual lockdown where you are now secreting yourself and your students that you're responsible for, or staff members, away from some potential threat that has attempted to enter or has entered the school and now is engaged in some type of crisis conduct.
Well, thank you all for watching and listening. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our channel and click the like button on this episode. This will keep you up to date with what we're up to, and it will help our channel grow and reach new people. Like we always say, there is safety in numbers. So the idea is that something external generally, or something from inside the school, has evolved to a state of crisis. And the best thing that we can do as a school right now is to completely lock the doors. In lockdown drills, it's really incredible to see what schools look like when they go into the lockdown drill. It looks like no one's at school. And it's amazing to see that in the middle of a school day, these schools can just go into this lockdown drill. So as you said, it's a policy developed thing where they run drills on this, for instance. The policy dictates what the steps they would take during a drill is, how often the drills happen, who's in charge of the drills. And then a really important thing, you said, once we lock in the room, we're going to wait for further instruction. The end of a lockdown has a signal as well. Just like starting a lockdown will have a signal, something like lockdown, each school will have a different sentence they use. But what happens at the end of a lockdown? How do I know as a teacher that lockdown has ended and I can lift my shades and unlock my door and go back to business as usual in the school?
Our company helps our clients practice this. Our company helps our clients write policy about lockdown, run, hide, fight, active shooter, evacuation. There's many different types of things that we do to help our clients understand the dynamics of what's necessary dependent upon the threat that is presenting itself. Perhaps it's not an active shooter. Perhaps it's a weather event. A serious weather event in Houston, Texas happens all the time with severe thunderstorms or with severe flooding, perhaps. It could be a wind event. It certainly could be a lightning event. And because of that, we want to make sure that we have everybody inside and it's locked down and staying there. Now, the weather event wouldn't cause you to shelter in place huddled up in a corner with your lights off. It would, however, direct you to enter a building, get away from the glass, stay in an area that's safe until someone says, hey, the weather event is past. You may now continue your business. So it's very important to have a policy that directs how this occurs and how you know about it. Is it an electronic method? Does the PA system in the school announce it? Does it come over a walkie-talkie that you have? Do you have a phone app that gives a lockdown? And another really important thing to think about is who can initiate the lockdown. It's a big deal when you lock down because it's going to direct and command and control people to do certain things, to stop what they're doing. Because someone in the cafeteria may not know what's happening in the playground, and the playground is the one who is flipping the switch, who they have seen. We talk about see something, say something. The playground person now has seen something, and now they're saying something by alerting everyone, lock down. So who can do it? Anybody can see something and say something, and then a faculty, a staff member certainly can flip that switch and initiate a lockdown. How do they know it? They know it either from technology, from their phone, from a page, from a text, from a electronic measurement, or from a bullhorn, many, many ways. But once you get that, you must do it. And if it's a drill, typically you'll drill that with preparation. Sometimes you'll drill it without. So it's very important to do it. But you're right, a school goes from full commerce, many people moving around, hundreds of students. The lockdown occurs, and with a snap of a finger, hopefully that quick, it's just empty. And it's important that it's empty because there's a time competitive agenda between, let's say, active shooter and people that are hiding and the police. The active shooter wants more time to continue doing his conduct and killing people. The police want him to have less time, and they want to be there sooner than later. So if you have a lockdown scenario where targets are not available for the shooter because they're locked in a room and the door is locked, the shooter may assume, oh, they've been trained in active shooter. Look, their blinds are down, the door is locked. That's a classroom. There's probably somebody in there. But the problem is time. How much time does that shooter wait and try to enter that door or shoot through that door or in some way get in that door before the time is up? Or do they continue moving and searching for a vulnerability that may exist by someone that store is not locked and use them as a target? So the lockdown and the lockdown drills are very important, and most of them occur because of an intruder alert or an active shooter intruder alert that is just 0 to 100. SAFESECURE 360. We are a security consulting group located in the Woodlands, Texas. We assist our multiple clients by reducing their risk, loss, and reputation impact. We also do full security assessments on their facilities, large churches, large private schools in Texas, and we want to help you. Take a look at our website, safesecure360.com.
So when the lockdown is called, everyone is following some sort of steps to this. There's a written policy, but that usually is going to be a thick thing. Teachers wouldn't normally bring a policy with them. We often recommend them to have, we call them the ready reference flip charts, but there are shorter versions of the policy that only talk about lockdown situations, evacuation situations, fire situations. What's the advantage of having a written document that the teachers can follow rather than just saying lockdown? What does the written document give the teachers that a training without that document wouldn't give them?
There's 3 different forms of school crisis communications policy. The big one is going to be the whole policy. It's going to be on a computer. That's going to be a big file that has other things attached to it. The breakout from that, or the shorter version from that, may be a written policy about safety and security, maybe 15 pages long. It'll be something in a manual that you may have somewhere that you can refer to and read and should be trained in during an in-service, and you should familiarize yourself with this, of course. Our company produces a ready reference flip chart that has 6 or 7 different types of events that would require some type of crisis response. It could be weather related, it could be an active shooter, it could be lockdown, it could be evacuation, shelter in place. That is a plastic waterproof flip chart about the size of a piece of paper, and that chart also has pertinent numbers for you to call. And then let's say you had a fire on campus, you would simply go to the fire tab, flip it open, and it would give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps to take right now to determine if you can manage this fire or it's too much. 911, evacuate. So that flip chart is available to our clients. We produce it just for them, and we mirror it with their policy. So that is an important thing to have. It hangs on the wall in every classroom. And then when an evacuation occurs, for instance, they just grab it, the teacher grabs it, flips to it, understands the policy. If they're leaving, takes it with them, and they have it with them. 2 additional things that are part of this flip chart is, one says, need help. It is on a red background with big letters, need help. That can be lifted up through a window to a first responder or to someone to show need help. Or it could be shown where you don't want to verbally communicate and you're being quiet, and you hold this up. That lets first responders know where the crisis event may be occurring. The other one in the flip chart we have is green background, and it says safe or clear or secure. That lets a first responder know that we're okay. Maybe go somewhere else because our classroom is okay. So those flip charts are very important during a crisis because a lot of things are going to happen very quickly, not only for you, but for the students that you have. Keeping them under control, orderly, and quiet is a very tough job. I wouldn't want that job, but it's a very important one. So if you're able to do it, it's a big plus. So having that ready reference flip chart with those action symbols on there is a great idea.
So lockdown is something that most schools probably just drill. Most schools don't do lockdowns very often, a real crisis response to lockdowns. But just this week, There were a couple of schools that did, a college, a university, and a high school in Houston, Texas. Let's talk about different examples of lockdown and what happened and talk them out. But Wisdom High School in Houston, Texas, on April 9th. In fact, these both happened on the same day. One was at TSU and one was at Wisdom High School. In Wisdom High School, a black Tahoe started following a 16-year-old male and his brother, and then one person in the car started shooting out the window at the two brothers, and then the second person in the car was filming the whole thing. A girl was hit, a 18-year-old girl was shot in the shoulder, and a 16-year-old boy was shot in the leg. Everybody went to the hospital, got treatment, and are recovering. But 150 students were in the area when the shooting occurred, and campus officers and police put this into lockdown very quickly, and the school went into a total lockdown inside of the school. So this is an example of an external threat where someone is shooting outside of the school, students are getting hit with bullets, and so the school locks down to protect the students. What is the best way that they could prepare for things like this to come, and what can they learn from the response of what happened to them just last week?
Policy-driven, practiced, both planned and unplanned, involving the students is very important. You typically revert to your training during a crisis event. And before they had to lock people down, if there were school children or whoever attends outside the building, they have to come in first. So if you can influence them and encourage them to come in away from the threat, that's a big step right there. But once they're in, lock it down. That's a perfect example of that. Let me give you another example of what we would call hold, and that would be if we had a police chase, for instance, in the area, and it's coming towards the school. If we have time, the ability to communicate from 911 or the police dispatcher to the school to say, look, we encourage you to shelter in place, hold, because we have a police chase coming your way, or we have a scene very close to you where actors are on the ground and we're trying to catch them, and you're right by the school. See, Robb Elementary had that happen in Uvalde, Texas. There was a police chase, and the guy crashed his vehicle and ran into the school and then just started shooting. So being able to hold means get inside the building, lock the building down, but not hiding and not securing yourself in anticipation of a shooter. That could come with new intelligence being developed. That could be added to it. But initially, we just want you in the school, the door's locked, nobody outside, because this external threat, although it hasn't presented itself to our campus, is in the area. We want to make sure that we're safe. So we have a tab you would flip to, and then here's the steps you would take.
Speaking of 911, it's maybe, unless you're in a school, you might assume that you might wonder if lockdown is called by police or called by teachers, but really it's established by the school says, according to their policy, we are in lockdown mode. And one of those policies is alerting 911, first responders, police. But police don't know, for those that don't know, police don't know what's going on in your school. They need to be notified of that. So during the notification process, there are modern apps that when you lock down on the school suite apps that have a crisis management, when you lock down, some of them will call the police automatically. But if you're calling the police to alert of a lockdown situation, what information might you want to provide to them? What specific information should people at schools provide to police when they're calling for this?
Contemporary police organizations are always on the alert for a school-related event. They're listening for the terrible words, active shooter. There's not much more you have to say to flip the switch and get that rolling but that. Yes, it's great to know more information. What do you mean, active shooter? How many active shooters? Where are they? What do they look like? What are they armed with, if you know? Has anyone been shot? Has there been any shots fired? Are people injured or dead? Where are they now? Just don't call the police, 911, and say, we have an active shooter at the school, and hang up. And that's happened. Stay on the line. We did a podcast on 911 and how it works. I encourage our listeners to and watchers to take a look at that, because it really goes through in depth at what 911 is and how it works. So the more information, you're telling a story to several people. The dispatcher, the 911 call taker, they're asking you information, and they're going to ask you specific questions that they want to know, because now they have to tell a story. You're experiencing it, or you may be on the scene but not really watching it. You may be relaying something as a third person. But the story that you tell, and the more detailed you are, the better it is for the responders, because they may not know where the cafeteria, he's in the cafeteria. They have no idea where the cafeteria is. So if you're able to say, they're in the cafeteria, you enter it from Main Street, that may be a better thing to say. There's two of them. They're dressed in green, or they're dressed in black. They have masks on. They have gloves on. They have a long gun. And yes, I've heard shots fired. Everything you tell us changes and amends our response behavior. We're coming. Lights, sirens, we're coming to an active shooter event. But the more you tell, ambulance is coming, the fire department's coming, the police are coming, they're all coming. You don't have to worry about that. But where are we coming to? And what should we expect when we arrive? Has the person entered the school and now you don't know where they're at? That's a big difference than if they're in the parking lot, like this shooting occurred. So the more information you can give to the police, the more informed we are to be able to plug that in to a solution that we're trying to provide.
Everybody in that situation on the school and police side and fire, ambulance, EMS, they all want the same thing. They want this to be over as fast as possible with the least amount of harm done to anyone involved in the situation. That's pretty much the vibe. So if you can be, it is scary, I imagine. You know, if you work at a school, maybe just consider putting yourself, like we talked about last week, when you watch true crime, and imagine how you would get out of it. If you work at a school, maybe consider practicing that phone call in the mirror. There's an active shooter, 911, they're at the cafeteria. You would get in by going through the front doors, around to the left immediately, and there's the cafeteria. The more information you can give, the faster the response in this competitive time agenda. I want to talk about drills a little bit more, and then we'll talk about what happened at TSU, but you've mentioned a couple times planned and unplanned drills. Drills, the function of them are so that you can practice the response, see what happens, and then evaluate and get better at it. What's the advantage of having an unplanned drill? I assume you mean you don't alert the teachers before you have a drill. You just, on a random Tuesday, you just go, lockdown drill, go. Is that what you're saying by unplanned?
Yes, the difference in a planned versus unplanned drill. A planned drill is typically done during an in-service training with teachers there and no students there, and we talk about, okay, we're about to do this. A lot of schools hire us to come in as consultants to be able to direct these drills and then critique these drills. And so our role is to talk about what the plan is going to be, what an effective lockdown looks like. And then once the teachers know, go to the room, close the door, drop the shade away, cell phones off, lights off. We then empower some parents sometimes who want to volunteer, and some staff members and faculty people from the school, and we go around to the doors and we knock on the doors. Let us in. Police. Or help, I need help, let me in. To see if in fact they're following those protocols that say do not open that door, because you are safeguarding these folks that are in there with you, and opening the door may expose you to risk. So that's how it goes. Then after that plan drill, the monitors, I call them, make notes, turn them into us, and then we debrief that with our executive staff or whoever's there, and we say, look, here's what you did good, here's what you didn't do good. Here, we couldn't communicate with the phones. Our app didn't work. We thought it would, but it didn't. We have a lot of confidence in this app on our phone, but my phone just didn't work. So there's a lot of things you can do with the phone app. You can have a census and you can do different things, but mine just didn't work. So is it a phone problem? Is it a software problem? Is it an application problem? Did multiple people experience that problem? That's a good time for us to find out. Okay, now let's move forward into an unplanned drill or a rehearsal, if you will, of these events. It's unplanned. The school leadership knows, I know, or if we're there, we know, and now we're going to do the same thing. But now there are students. So how does this process work? I can tell you right off the bat, it's going to take a little bit longer because you have to, once the message is sent to lock down, you have to understand it, stop what you're doing, go into that mode to where now not you're just locking yourself down, but you have people. Can you usher those kids back into a classroom? What if there's kids in the hallway that aren't part of your class? Get them too. But that's going to change your census, right? That other classroom's going to have a lower number of children. You're going to have a higher number. That's okay because we're going to figure that out later. The big thing is get them away from the threat. Get them in there and lock them down. And then once that's done, we will then begin again seeing who we can get in, listening for sounds, listening for cell phones to let us know that, hey, I'm a shooter. That's a very valuable classroom because I hear them in there. I know they're in there. And I'm going to try to defeat that door or go through there. So that's when the run, hide, fight training comes in, and that's a separate training. But I'll tell you that being able to lock down quickly and efficiently with people that you can get in, very important in the strategy of survival.
These two lockdowns happened in one day. That's pretty surprising to me. In Houston, at TSU, a university, police found an 18-year-old male driver dead in the driver's seat of his car. And so they locked down the whole school. Several witnesses saw people leaving, and they locked down the school just to prevent the school from having that situation come into the school because it happened on the campus parking lot. This is a different kind of situation where it's not active bullets flying, but it is a shocking event that would definitely affect the school negatively if it started to walk in the school, and that's why they called lockdown. In situations like this, where it's something that this might be more of a hold situation, as you were describing before, where you wait and go to lockdown. What can they learn from this situation at the campus that did this lockdown procedure?
We're assuming that the threat is outside, and the only way to escape it is to secure inside. What about outside? What about that parking lot? Are there people in that parking lot? Are there students? Are there parents? Are there teachers coming to lunch, going back, arriving, leaving? Is there an outside athletic area that is in reach of that vehicle in the parking lot? What about them? So it's not just about locking down and holding inside the building. That is certainly a valid thing to do. But if you have potential targets that are on a baseball field or football field or lacrosse field or soccer field 100 yards away from where this shooting and murder took place, what about them? They've got to go. So it's more of a run, hide, fight scenario than it is evacuation or shelter in place, because you need to get them. The objective is to remove potential targets, people, from the area of the threat. Even if it's past, who knows? Is the guy actually dead, or is he still armed, or are they coming back to make sure? There's no way of knowing. So why take the chance? Evacuate everybody away from that area outside, lock and hold the school for sure, but think about those threats outside, because that's very important to know, to get away from that scene, because it's a crime scene and it needs to be separated from any potential targets that could be a risk.
School administrative professionals, the people that work in school administration, may or may not have experience doing security and analyzing their, I don't know that every person would have thought about providing part of the lockdown policy, a subsection being when outside, this is what you do. And specifically when you're in the athletic parking lot, which has these other variables. School administrators aren't necessarily thinking like that. They're thinking about the education of the kids. They're thinking about running the business and giving the students the best care they can give them. So who do they reach out to help them with their policy? Because a weak policy can make the school softer, and a strong policy can make the response better. So who do they reach out to for help in these situations?
Certainly when I was in school, we never used words like active shooter, shelter in place, run, hide, fight. These are evolving things that we're having to do as educators. That's not the reason you're there. You're there to learn. You're there to socially interact. You're there to do some type of learning. So now all of a sudden, we are making you and we are demanding that these administrators in these schools and these teachers and faculty and staff become crisis, if not managers, responders, right? Because we're giving them jobs to do. And we're telling them, look, here's your job if this happens, and here's your job if that happens. And we're training them, and we're writing policy about it. So it's a very complex thing. I don't want you to be thinking about this all the time. That's what we do. Hire us as consultants. We help you with that, and we do. A lot of our clients, we proudly serve many, many schools and churches and businesses. And the reason that it's so important that you keep this in your mind, but don't fixate on it, because you may have to use it. And when you use it, you want it to be easy to understand, reasonable, easy to access, and a simple plan to follow. Wouldn't you? That's what I would want. So I'm not trying to teach you to be a security expert or a law enforcement officer. I'm trying to teach you to be aware of the reality in Houston, Texas. You say, well, this is a big city. We're in a small town. Well, Uvalde, Texas is a small town. Sutherland Springs, Texas is a very small town with significant, terrible things happen. People were killed at the church. Santa Fe, Texas is a very small town. So the shooters don't care about population. They care about opportunity, and they plan these things out, and they have a practice. They're rehearsed. They have the equipment. They have a strategy. They may have religious reasons are doing this. God may have told them to in a strange way that they perceive. They're mentally ill. There may be some type of political motivation that they feel like they have to do this. Whatever the cause is, here it comes. Are you ready? Will you have a response or will you have a reaction? That's the key. Let us help you have a response.
What you're saying right now is basically be aware that there is a need, and there is a valid need for companies like ours to go into business helping schools write policy and keeping their policy updated. The reason that that people like us come around and help is because the other side is getting the negatives are becoming more numerous. Active shooter isn't something that only started when I was in school. And so because of the constant updating of things, it's not a good idea for administrators to spend their full jobs thinking about security planning. That's not a good idea. The education of the school might suffer from them spending all their energy on this. But having some time throughout the year and throughout the month spent on ensuring that your policy is developed leads you to a good response that you can practice with your school. Is there anything else they should consider as a school relating to lockdown or relating to drills? To me, drills seem so effective at rehearsing things to ensure that you have an accurate read on how the school is going to actually work in them. Is there any other idea that they should leave with schools, administrators, teachers themselves, parents of students? There's so many groups involved in this.
One important thing that I'd like to mention is that what about, you do your in-service training at the end of the year, beginning of the year, whenever you do it, and everybody's there. What about a substitute teacher that comes and now she's in charge of 40 students and she hasn't taken any of this training? What about her? Or what about multiple of them? How does he now fit into this security components? And what is his response? The flip chart that we developed that they can grab and use and flip to and index real quickly is a great idea. But think about who's coming midstream, who didn't get all the training, who didn't participate in a drill. They may have done a drill somewhere else if they're a substitute, maybe a brand new teacher, who knows? But think about having some video they can watch or one of our podcasts they can watch that will give them at least some background into what they can do to protect themselves and the children is a very good point.
So the school makes the policy, and usually training happens in in-service days at the beginning or the end of the year. But earlier you mentioned substitute teachers. What's the best way to have a substitute teacher included in your living policy and being able to be on the same page as your regular teachers that come every day?
Well, we're talking about crisis policies that may affect everyone. And the crisis doesn't care if you're a regular teacher who's been through the training, who can recite the policy, who is very familiar with it. The crisis doesn't care. So if you have, and it happens frequently, substitute teachers come in and they'll take over the role of a regular teacher. What is their training? What is their background? What is their ability to respond and to shepherd those children and to act as a resource to responders? It may not be there. It may not be very well done at all. So I suggest that prior to you assigning a substitute, number one, their background cleared. Number two, they have a training in crisis response. That could be from reviewing the policy to reviewing our crisis event flip chart or action item flip chart, to attending some type of abbreviated training or watching one of our videos about what their role would be. That may all be good for them if they have limited or no knowledge of this, because they're going to be treated during the crisis just like a regular a teacher, and they're going to be counted on with certain expectations for them to do. So I think it's very important not to forget the substitutes or anyone that is in a role, a new teacher perhaps. It's very important.
Well, thank you for continuing to make good points on these podcasts. We appreciate your knowledge and you helping us understand. A lot of people watching this probably don't have that much experience in the school system, so they're just absorbing all this new information, and it's probably giving them some compassion about teachers and about school systems and helping us understand. The more that we all as a society agree that the schools should be safe places, the more time and knowledge we spend doing that, the better the results will be when we do drills and when we have to deal with responses to crises as well. Well, thank you all for watching, listening, and learning with us. If you haven't already, go ahead and click like on this video and subscribe to the channel. That'll keep you up to date with what we're doing, and it'll help us reach new people that could hear our message. Like we always say, there is safety in numbers, so thank you so much for participating with us. This is the SAFESECURE 360 podcast. The information provided in our podcasts is for general information uses only and is not intended as legal advice. The views and opinions expressed by the guests are their own. Always consult with a qualified professional before making safety and security decisions. For more information about this topic, check out our website at safesecure360.com.